everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Glen Kuiper Show on a Tuesday night in the Bay Area. Finally, we have some fun Giants news to talk about, and we have the perfect person as my guest tonight to talk about the San Francisco Giants. We're going to introduce our special guest in just a little bit, as we have lots and lots to talk about. Finally, the Giants have some new players, and that always makes it fun. So we'll get to our special guest in just a moment. We have to hear from our sponsors first and foremost, as we are sponsored by Partners Capital LLC. It is a wealth management firm providing financial strategies for elite performance and lasting peace of mind. Professional athletes to families next door, Partners Capital delivers thoughtful planning, steady guidance, and a clear path forward. Partners Capital, your partner for a stronger financial future. Call them at 1-888-702-7743. The Glen Kuiper Show is also brought to you by the Carrick Real Estate Team. Since 1978, the Carrick Real Estate Team has been helping families buy and sell homes across the Bay Area with a legacy of client-first service. Whether you're moving up, downsizing, or making that first family purchase, trust the Carrick Real Estate Team to guide you home. Call them at 925-548-4132. We're also brought to you by Tilden Properties. As an investor, one of the best places to put your money is California's multi-family real estate. By investing with Tilden Properties, you'll see quarterly dividends and equity buildup in the real estate market. Invest with Tilden Properties. They are always looking for investors, and it is well worth your time to give them a call or check out their website at tildenproperties.com. So thanks to the sponsors as always, and it's time now to bring in our very special guest, one of my favorite people in our business. She covers the San Francisco Giants for the San Francisco Chronicle, and her name is, of course, Susan Slusser. Susan, how are you?
Hey, Glenn. What a pleasure to see you not in the baseball season.
It's nice to talk. I've been wanting to talk to you. I know you've been on vacation, well-deserved, obviously. But before we get into all the stuff that's going on, how many years is this now covering the Giants?
5.
5.
So,
okay. And when did you start with because you and I go way back. When did you start with the A's? My first year was 2004 with the A's.
So full-time 99, but I was a backup in San Francisco for 2 years and a backup in Sacramento years before then, sort of 88 to 94-ish. So in and around all the Bay Area teams for quite some time, but full-time on the A's for 23 years.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time with, covering the A's together. I know we laughed a lot about all the crazy stuff that was going on. We also saw some really, really good teams, but there always seemed to be a little turmoil somewhere. But it was fun. I know we both enjoyed, covering the A's as long as we did. But now it's the Giants, and Susan, finally, we'll get right to it. They did make some noise today. I'm going to ask you about these guys they got. We know a little bit about them. Let's start with Adrian Houser. You got a nice contract, 2 years, $22 million. A back-end guy. I think you can safely say he's a 4th or 5th starter. What are your thoughts on Adrian Houser?
Well, you hope he's a 4th or 5th starter. If he's their number 3 starter, it means that they haven't gotten a more prominent starter on the free agent market or via a trade. I still think they're very much trying to do that. In fact, I talked to someone with the Giants organization who said, if they can get a number 1, they would do that. I still think they're sending a lot of mixed messages. Greg Johnson told John Shea in separate interviews, told both of us that they're not really looking to do a lot of 9-figure deals or, 5, 6, 7-year deals. I think they feel like they have enough of those on the book. But then Buster Posey, when we asked about that at the winter meetings, as I'm sure you know, said, when I go to ownership with a deal I feel strongly about and I show them why we need this deal, I've had their support. So I think they feel like if they have the right guy at the right price, they can do something. But they've clearly cast a huge wide net, both via free agents and trades, for basically every position that they have a need. I think they've talked to everyone. So when you hear the Giants connected with any trade rumors, I'm not necessarily sure how. I mean, I'm sure they've talked to him. I'm not sure how deeply they've talked on some of these guys. But anyway, Adrian Houser. I think most of your listeners will know him probably from his years with Milwaukee. A very good, solid guy, takes the ball, really eats some innings, got a nice sinker with a really good infield defense. Obviously, he knows Willie Adames, but somebody like him behind him and Chapman, he could have some nice couple of years, and there's a club option at the end there too with the Giants. So there's a great spot for him. I'm sure he is absolutely thrilled. It's pending a physical still.
Yeah.
By the time I think by the time sometimes some people are listening to this or watching this, I think it'll probably be done.
Yeah. So, and yeah, he's not a big strikeout guy. He's not real flashy. The stuff is decent, but you're right. Good sinker, ground ball guy. And I think you're going to remember this, but when I think of Adrian Hauser, he pitched against the Giants last year in Chicago, right, for the White Sox. And, we've all heard of him, seen him pitch a little bit, didn't think much of it. Oh, they're facing Adrian Hauser today. Okay, whatever. And he completely shoved big time, 7 shutout innings. And I was like, wow, this guy's pretty good. I mean, he looked good against the Giants that day, but I think a lot of Giants people remember that game. And I know, Susan, they liked him at the trade deadline last year as well.
Yeah, as did the Rays, obviously, who wound up trading for him. It's interesting. He did nice work with the White Sox after the Rangers released him. He'd been pitching at Round Rock. And then goes to the White Sox, I think 10 or 11 games, really, really good numbers. So I think a lot of teams were interested in it at the deadline. Obviously, for the White Sox, that's a win-win. They weren't going anywhere. A guy they picked up essentially on the minor league free agent market turns into a trade piece for them. But he didn't fare as well with Tampa Bay. It looks, like maybe either wore down or something happened. Then the numbers at Tampa were not quite as good. And I'm looking forward to whenever we get to talk to him to ask sort of what happened there that last maybe 10 starts of the season.
Susan, do you think this deal, 2 years, $22 million, which, listen, I mean, he's a free agent, that's, I don't know, you want to say the going rate for a 4th or 5th starter? I don't know. But do you think this eliminates Scherzer and or Verlander?
I don't think so. I think at the very least, you've got more pitching depth. I don't think anyone would be surprised with Scherzer, given his long friendship with Tony Vitello. I don't think the Giants have ruled out Verlander by any means. I'm not sure Verlander, much as I do think he enjoyed his time in San Francisco. The results weren't what he wanted. They weren't what the Giants wanted, kind of through nobody's fault. But certainly Verlander pitched so much better than the record. He's obviously, he's trying to rack up the wins. So sure. I still think that was absolutely an anomaly. I think that it was wonderful watching him pitch. I really enjoyed covering him and really enjoyed getting to know him a little bit better. He is fierce. I thought he was good for the younger players around him. But he, I could see that maybe he might go elsewhere, but I'd tell you, if he pitched this coming year like he did last year, he would get a lot more wins. I think that was just a weird set. He was the one guy, right? There's always one guy who just cannot get the wins no matter how well they pitch. That was him last year. The odds of that happening in 2 years in a row seem really, in fact, honestly, the Giants is probably the best landing spot for him because I cannot see that happening to him 2 years in a row there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So you think, I mean, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but maybe Scherzer has a better chance of being a Giant than Verlander if they didn't need that extra guy. Yeah, I
think so. I do think what they are doing right now is trying to find somebody who's more of a front end of the rotation guy. I really, Zach Gallen is a guy they've checked in on for sure. I believe he would take a shorter term deal with maybe a higher AAV, as we've seen with a few other pitchers this offseason. So that could be interesting. The Giants certainly know him very well. Just getting him out of Arizona would be a good thing. Merrill Kelly goes back to Arizona to continue to be a thorn in the Giants' side. Sure. But yeah, there are some really good names out there. I'd be stunned if it was somebody like Framber Valdez, but hey, they've certainly talked to him.
Yeah. Okay. So they also get a reliever today, Jason Foley, pretty good reliever with the Tigers, but missed all of last year. Not going to be ready till what they're talking maybe midway point. But this is, like I said, it's one of those guys like, I knew him a little bit, but then you looked and a couple of years ago, he had 28 saves. So this is a quality guy if he can come back healthy and be the way he was, because he's another guy, hard sinker, good ground ball guy, but he would be a free agent for 3 more years. So this is one of those guys where you really hope that he's good and he turns out to be good for the Giants, because he could stay with them for 3 more years and be a big part of their bullpen, because he was a pretty good reliever with the Tigers.
Yeah, the shoulder is obviously the worry. It's not shoulder surgery, especially capsule surgery is not the sort of almost automatic fix that Tommy John surgery is. And orthopedists would chide me for saying automatic fix. It's not. It's a very good fix, and most guys come back very well, and in some cases even better. But the shoulders are much more of a risky proposition. They tend to be ones that where you keep getting repeat injuries, or guys just aren't as effective. But assuming full health, this is a really nice pickup. I kind of did a little of a deep dive on some of Jason Foley's stuff, and the slider is a nasty pitch. I think opponents hit 113 off it his 2 years ago, and when he racked up 28 saves with the Tigers, and he's only given up 1 homer on it in the big leagues. So I think he could be a special guy if healthy, but he's not going to be available until the middle of the season. So you hope that he is doing well.
You think there's more there as the reliever the Giants need to go get another guy? I don't think they're going to spend big on the relievers. And I'm always leery of it. I mean, these guys getting these huge closers, getting huge free agent contracts. I know it has not worked out well for the Giants, and who knows? Maybe they're a little gun shy of that. A guy who I thought maybe was a possibility was Kenley Jansen, and I know he signed
off the board. Yeah.
But a guy like that, a veteran guy who, listen, is he dominant closer anymore? No, but he still gets the job done. But doesn't matter now. He's off the board. But I think they need another guy, another quality guy, because I still think they're a little short down there.
Yeah, I 100% think that they're going to keep adding to the bullpen. I think it could be a combination of a lot of things. Certainly some minor league free agents will be in the mix. And I think a trade could be a way that they could pick up a reliever or two. They certainly have been talking to teams about various different possibilities that include relievers. So that's possible. But I don't think that they're going to pay top dollar for, say, like a big name closer. But I do think that they have certainly checked in on everybody. And it wouldn't stun me if they picked up somebody who their analytics show would really pitch well, say, at the ballpark, or, with a couple of little tweaks or different, pitch mix, the things that the Giants love to do. I think that, they could be looking at somebody that we're not aware of and going like, this is our guy, and we think he really could be a great closer.
And I could see them leaving a couple spots open down there when spring training starts and letting a whole bunch of guys fight for it. Because, you got young guys too, minor league guys. You have, the Hayden Birdsongs of the world, whether maybe they're better off in the bullpen, or the Trevor McDonald's, right? So I could see there being a whole bunch of guys fighting for a couple spots at the end of the Giants bullpen.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea of Hayden Birdsong in the bullpen. I asked Buster Posey about it last week at the winter meetings, and he said he was also asked about Carson Whisenhunt, and he was very firm about keeping Carson Whisenhunt as a starter. And then he said the same about Birdsong, but then kind of concluded with, at least for now. So if to me, if Birdsong is still having maybe some of those same issues he was having with the strike zone, why not? Maybe in shorter stints, the strike throwing is a little bit easier. He has been a reliever. He's been a reliever in the minors. He was a reliever as an amateur. So he knows how to do it, Hayden Birdsong. So I think that would be an interesting thing. I really like the looks of Briguero. Very brief look at the end, but during the spring, he also looked good. He's a guy who I think potentially to keep an eye on, maybe not necessarily as closer, but as a leverage situation type guy, back end type guy. So they'll have options. I just don't think Ryan Walker's a guy who's going away either. Like that, if he's the same thing with him, it's the strike throwing, and he's got the funky delivery. It's a little bit tough sometimes to keep that maybe as perfect for the strike throwing as sort of a more traditional over the top. But I really like some of the work he did. It's in there too.
Yeah, I mean, think about how he was one of the best relievers in baseball in 2024. I mean, you can't forget that. Last year, it was just I thought he lost a lot of confidence. You could almost see it in his face on the mound. It was like, oh, here we go again. Leadoff guy's on. And that's a tough spot for a closer, but you can't forget how good he was in 2024. So it's there. Man, if he could come back and take the closer role, that would be huge.
That would be ideal for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so Glenn, just one more thing about relievers. They're so hard to project, and sometimes it is sort of a year on, year off usage, or teams have seen them so much, that kind of thing. I always think when a good reliever is coming off a bad year, kind of watch out. We've seen so many good bounce back years from guys, so definitely don't discount Ryan Walker.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I want to get back to the starting pitching thing one last time. So, there's talks about trades as well. Like, I always think, the Freddie Peralta thing to me is awesome, right? And I say that because, and I know that the naysayers are like, well, it's a 1-year thing. It's like, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
You give up less.
Yeah, you give up less. It's an $8 million contract, so that's ridiculously low for this guy. And Willy Adames is his best buddy. He's probably going to like pitching here. I mean, the crowds are good. So there's a lot to like if he were to come here. And then you got a shot. Maybe you can extend him, right? But if you don't, give him a qualifying offer. Take the draft picks and let him go. That's the guy, but I don't know if they have enough. I guess they probably do have enough, but how far do you want to go, right? To put together a package for somebody like him. But he just seems like the best guy to get that you could get, right? I mean, Hunter Green would be great to get. Well, you're not going to get him, right? But this guy just seems
you'd have to trade Bryce Eldridge to get Hunter
to start with, right? Yeah, but I've been thinking a lot about Peralta, and that just seems like because he's a number 1 or a number 2.
Absolutely, and they could put together a nice package for him that doesn't include Eldridge. Obviously, you're not trading Eldridge for 1 year of a guy, but certainly they've got some talent, and some pretty good young pitching too in the lower level. Like they seem to really match up. I think that especially now with Zach Manassian and honestly with Buster, I think the Brewers and the Giants are a little simpatico in the way they think about players and the way they do things. So I could really see that. I think they're going to be sort of either a frequent trade partner or never a trade partner because they like all of the same guys.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. But I don't know. The more I think about that guy, it just seems to kind of fit. And there's not some, I'm not a big fan of the 6-7 year deals for starting pitchers either. And we're going to see some. They're going to start to come here soon. And, I don't think Buster's a big fan of those either. Sometimes you probably have to do it, but I just don't get the feeling he and Zach and his people are big fans of doling out those kind of contracts for pitchers.
I agree. And I also feel the same way. Now, look, I am very much like, hey, pay the players. I don't want, I'd rather have the money going to the players than the owners. But in this case, from a practical standpoint, there's, of course, the injury risk. But what I do like is what the Giants have done. I like extending your own guys. Like if it's a Logan Webb, extend them. I like what you're saying. If you've got Freddie Peralta, if you've acquired him, extend him. I hope maybe they talk to Robbie Ray about doing something a little bit beyond.
I thought about
if they could, that Robbie Ray, like as much as the fan base really kind of turned on the former administration, that Robbie Ray deal was really, really wise by Farhan's idea. Really, a top-notch deal because he is that that guy is sensational. So maybe look for deals like that. Guys coming off a down year or injured. Obviously, they've done that a little bit with Foley, but maybe with a starter. So again, they're considering everything. I mean, first of all, that front office now is enormous. I wonder how they're breaking everything down.
Yeah.
They're considering everything, but they've got the brains to do it.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what about this second base thing? Because I'm a little torn. Like Casey Schmidt, you watch him, you see the improvement, and there was significant improvement last year. I thought he looked like a much better ball player all around. I'm still not sure where he's going to end up as far as, is he going to be an average player? And I'm talking about an everyday player, or is he going to be an above average everyday player? I don't think we know that yet. And that's, the Giants' job to try to decide, we think he's going to be an above average player. But it sounds like second base is an area that they're looking to improve. How serious are these rumors? The Donovan guy, it's hard not to like him in St. Louis. I think he'd be a tremendous fit. I'm not buying the Marte thing. I don't know how much truth there is to that. What can you tell us? You got a look on your face, Susan, like you know something. What can you tell us?
I've been asking around. Like, look, I don't think this is their priority. I think that this is one position where if they wanted to, and if maybe say they go all defense for an outfielder, with maybe, not quite as big a bat, which I don't think is what they should do. I think they should go all in on the best available defensive outfielder who can hit, which for my money is Cody Bellinger. If they go, what they have to do is get a good defensive outfielder, bat or no. If they don't get a really top-notch bat, then I think maybe you look at second base as a place where you add another bat. And Casey Schmidt could become a very good utility player. My goodness, he's a really good defensive player. He even looked nice at first base when they had him at first. But the guy can field, and he brings a lot of energy to the clubhouse. Sure. Glen, he's kind of a sweet goofball. Everyone loves him. I'm a big fan. Like, the media loves him. I think he certainly could be a better than average major league player. He would need to play most of the time to do that, to get a real feel, and for anybody to really know. So I don't know if that happens, if he gets that chance this year. But for his sake, I do think he's got it in him. I would like to see that. And I would rather have them. They absolutely have to get some offense and really some defense in the outfield.
Yeah. So let's talk more about the outfield, because it's been intriguing to me since the end of the season. And I have said all along, Susan, they need to make changes out there. Now, personnel changes or position changes, right? Like I think Jung-Hoo Lee would be a good right fielder in that ballpark. The Ramos thing has been well chronicled. I wouldn't mind seeing them run, Gilbert and Weimer in center field. But I think they're going to give Lee a shot in center to show some improvement. What do you see happening in this outfield? And I mean, is like a Bellinger thing? Yeah, he'd be great, right? I mean, or Tucker, but I don't know about Tucker being realistic. But
trade for a Luis Robert who's probably primed for a good bounce back year, like somebody like that. But Jung-Hoo Lee, and I really do believe that Jung-Hoo Lee can and will be a good big league player. Yeah. I think he profiles as a good leadoff hitter. I think he will steal more bases. He's still learning, but it's not just that he wasn't very good in center field. He was really. I was looking last year at one point at their overall outfield analytics, and they were so poor. I thought, whoa, this can't all just be Elliott. And no offense to Elliott, I had a long talk with Elliott at the very end of the season, and he said he really his focus was bad out there. He doesn't know why he'd take a big step back. He knows he's working on it. He's probably working on it right now. Yeah. I think he will be back to the better fielder that he was 2 years ago. But when I looked at their overall and then looked at Jung-Hoo was right at the bottom among center fielders in baseball. Really? Yeah, I mean, he was no better than 27th in almost all the defensive metrics.
Yeah.
It was just not a good season for him defensively, and he also did not show, despite the fact that he was told numerous times, like, you're the center fielder, you have to take charge out
Big
there.
charge,
He
yeah.
didn't show that. He did not show that he was going to do that. I hope that he starts to take that on, kind of taking charge. If he is out in center, he has to. You have to be the voice out there, but he didn't show that last year. So I would like to see him on a corner. I would like to see a big bat, excellent outfield center fielder. I think that is the thing that would make them most improved, is having a big upgrade in center fielder, both from a offensive and defensive standpoint.
Yeah, I thought Jung-Hoo Lee last year, there was times he looked hesitant. There was times he didn't look real aggressive in the outfield, I thought. And I think there's more there. And that was what I wanted to ask you, Susan. Do you think, like we're talking about, well, trade for this guy or see if you can get this guy? I think there's part of the Giants' philosophy is they're looking for internal improvement. They're looking for, like you said, they think Elliot Ramos can become an above average defender because they know the kid, they know how hard he works. Now, that's a little bit of wishful thinking, which you got to be careful with, right? Because wishful thinking can get you in trouble. But I think they feel that way about Jung-Hoo Lee a little bit too, that there's more there defensively, and they know the player and they know how hard the player is willing to work. And I think if they don't necessarily make the big play for a Bellinger or something, I think they feel like these two can raise their level of play defensively to above average. Agree with that?
I don't know. I hope so.
Do you think the Giants feel that way?
I think so. I think that they would be cautiously optimistic, but probably planning for not. I think front offices have to be that way. I think they have to think sort of worst case scenario along with everything else. Yeah. But they need an outfielder. They need another everyday outfielder still. Whether it's a right field or center field, to me, they need one more for sure, for real, everyday big league player. I'm not sure it's Gerard Encarnacion. I'm not sure it's Drew Gilbert. I'm not sure it's either the two new guys. I think that is where you really, really upgrade. Now, look, there are a lot of people that say in this division and with the way the Dodgers are spending and with that Dodgers roster, why would you go and spend a ton when you could, and I feel like we've been saying this year after year, you could spend all this money and finish third or fourth and miss out on the playoffs. Sure, absolutely.
You could. I mean, that's the risk. That's the risk every year. Right,
exactly. But this is every season is unique. And to me, when you've got a pretty good core, which I think the Giants do, a core that I think could contend with a couple more good pieces, I think you have to go for it because you just don't know. A couple injuries or some underperformance here and there with any other team, and anybody could, and all you have to do is sneak into the postseason. Giants fans know that better than anybody.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think the problem is you are now always looking at the Dodgers. Got to catch the Dodgers. That may not happen, but that doesn't mean you can't get into the postseason and have I mean, how many teams in the last 3 or 4 years have we seen a wild card team get to the World Series, right? Yeah. I mean, it happens. Yeah. Happens quite a bit, so I'm with you. Hey, let's switch to the new manager. I haven't talked to you about him. Very interesting situation. I'm so intrigued. I can't wait to get to spring training to watch this because this guy's really sharp. We all know it, right? We've listened. We've heard. I want to hear from a reporter's standpoint. What are your thoughts on Vitello from what you've seen so far?
Well, I feel like I haven't had a chance to really know him enough. We've chit-chatted some just at the winter meetings. What I know about him is what I've learned from the people that know him best. I did a big story about him sort of in that limbo land before when he, like, it was signed, but they hadn't actually had the press conference yet, so we couldn't actually talk to him. But I talked to a lot of other people, including his dad. I talked to Jay Stigler. I talked to his coach at Missouri. So people who really know him, and I cannot tell you the raves about this guy and about his energy level and his people skills, and obviously the recruiting. Everyone knows about the recruiting skill, which sounds like a crazy thing to want in a major league manager. Like, that's not a thing. You don't recruit. Well, the Giants, what we've learned is you do have to recruit some in San Francisco. So there's a lot to like. Certainly there are huge question marks, and he has been the thing that I was really interested in at the winter meetings was he answered so many questions with, like, look, these are things I don't really know yet, and he said he was a little overwhelmed. And he's very genuine, and I think that comes across, and I think that'll help too. And look, Glenn, from all those years in baseball, by the time you go through a very long spring training, and this year it's even longer because of the WBC, you know everybody. Everyone knows you. I don't know if the players, especially these days, think in terms of past the spring training of, oh, this is a college coach, not a guy with any pro experience. They're going to play just as hard. They now know him after 6 weeks. I think that's going to be a little bit of a non-story. But I will tell you, during the winter meetings, it certainly was a story. And I think for the first couple of months of the season, we're going to see a lot of national media coming in and writing does he know what he's doing kind of stories. But he's got Ron Washington on his staff, which, yay, Glenn, you and I love us some Ron Washington. And he's got Dusty Baker and Bruce Bochy to bounce stuff off of, and Jay Stigler. I mean, he's got a lot of really good minds. Now, the game, fans can watch baseball and it doesn't seem super fast, but every big league manager will tell you their first year managing at whatever level it was, it goes so fast. It feels like you're making decisions nonstop, and it just speeds up as the game goes along, particularly a close game. So the fact that he and Tingler are besties, and Tingler's going to be right next to him, I think that'll really help too.
Susan, you're going to like this, and I have not told you this. So you mentioned his coach at the University of Missouri, Tim Jameson, right? Awesome guy. Well,
very good.
Did you know that? No, you didn't know this. Tim Jameson was my coach when I was in college at the University of New Orleans. He was a graduate. He was a graduate assistant at the University of New Orleans. So he was young. He was 22, 23, 24.
No way.
He was the graduate assistant coach when I was there. And then I had, you kind of remember, Timmy, and what's he doing? And then I know he went to Missouri and he had a lot of success. And about 3 weeks ago, he contacted me, and I have not talked to TJ in 40 years.
Oh my gosh.
So we talked for, half an hour, and it was great. And he's going to come on my show at some point in January. Yeah. So I thought you'd like that, but he's a great guy. And you think about it, and everybody's talking, oh, Tim Jameson. And you wrote a nice article and his name was all over. And I was like, he was my coach in 1985. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So it is
the smallest world. Well, one of the things he said, which I kind of knew, but it hadn't really sunk in, was when Tony Vitello was a very young coach and had just sort of joined his staff. I think it was his second year in, they lost their pitching coach. Tony Vitello was not a pitcher, he was a infielder type. Right. He made him the pitching coach because he was like, he said, like, hey, TJ, I think I can do this. Like, I can get the job done for you. And he was like, it's yours. Go ahead, take it. Yeah. And he did a great job. That's where he knows Scherzer from. Like, the pitchers all loved him. The pitchers.
Yeah.
So he's done a job that he had absolutely zero experience for before. So I don't really think that. I think the whole experience thing might be just, I think this is a baseball guy who knows baseball in and out and motivates people and captures people's imaginations. I think he'll be just fine.
Susan, what will you watch for as a reporter when you get to spring training and you're meeting with Vitello? And I'm not saying you're eyeballing him to see what he's all about, but I mean, you're looking at things differently than a fan looks at. But what will you watch for from him?
Every manager is so different. It's almost hard to say. I think the what we want during spring training is thoughtful answers. So we're all writing feature stories during spring. Nobody cares really all that much about the actual game results. You're writing about features, and you're writing about the roster and what the roster is going to look like and who's looking good in the spring, those kind of things. So all we want really is thoughtful, interesting answers and some good anecdotes, and I think we're going to get that. He's got a lot of sort of charm, and he's a talker, so that's fantastic. He's great with the media in Tennessee by all reports. It certainly sounds like he was. So I'm not too worried about his interactions with us once the season starts. Again, this is something that doesn't really pertain as much to spring training in any way. But the bullpen management is the thing that we're all really interested in seeing, because that's the thing that's going to be very different with 162 games and a roster the size he's going to have. Very, very different from the college game, through 3 games a week and your starters working in your Friday starters working in the bullpen on Sunday, so those will be the things we'll really be, I think, keeping an eye on.
What about the staff? I find the staff incredibly interesting. It's gotten put together kind of slowly, but it strikes me as a very diverse staff as far as specialties go. You got biomechanics guy, and you got Ron Wash as a fielding guru. I mean, you don't always see that, but it's almost like each guy has some type of responsibility. And I find that kind of intriguing, and I'm curious to watch the staff, and on top of them not knowing each other, all getting together. That, listen, that'll come together quickly, but that each person seems to have a different specialty. Do you kind of see it that way?
Yeah, it's going to be a big staff, not quite as big as what we saw during some of the Gabe Kapler years, but I like that too. I don't know a lot of them. I'm really looking forward to getting to know guys like Mintz and Message. During the winter meetings, I just kept having people from other teams come up to me and going like, "You're going to love him," whether it was Mintz or Message, and like, that's fantastic. Great, everyone seems to really think these are good hires. And, you and I know Ron Washington very well. I know Jesse Chavez really, really well. He's one of my all-time favorites. He is brilliant when it comes to pitching. I mean, he's going to be the bullpen coach. He's going to be out there. And I'll tell you, when he was with the A's, and he was a little younger in his career. I mean, obviously he was like, he was starting to get a little up there for a player those last couple of years in Atlanta. But this was young in his career, but he would tell even veterans like, "Hey, I noticed like your arm slot dipped like a little," and it was stuff the pitching coach wasn't seeing sometimes. Guys weren't picking up on video, just like little changes in guys' deliveries. Or he'd say like, "Hey, I think maybe why don't you try your grip a little bit like this? Just move your," and like guys would come up with like all sorts of different movement on pitches based on things that he'd suggested. The only other pitcher I've covered who sort of was like that, but really more inwardly, was Sonny Gray, who could, as you'll remember, could just come up with a crazy new pitch out of nowhere in the bullpen right before a game. But Jesse was doing that with other pitchers. And I've always thought he's going to be a phenomenal pitching coach. So I think that was an A++ hire. Plus, yet another franchise for Jesse Chavez.
Well, you know what I was interested. I was talking to my brother about Jesse Chavez, and we were kicking it around. He said, you saw him with Oakland. I said, but he made a great point to me. He said, you know what? Jesse Chavez got people out for 18 years without great stuff. There's something to be taught
there. Like 120 pounds. Yeah, it's incredible.
But that's a teachable thing for a reliever who may be struggling or can't find it.
Absolutely.
So there's something there for a guy like Jesse Chavez, and on top of the fact that he's awesome. I mean, we love the guy.
Yeah.
And what about Wash? How great is that? I think that's a little bit of a sleeper move by the Giants. And I know the defensive thing, he's a guru. He's going to help guys. He's going to help Devers. He's going to help Elder. He's going to help, everybody on that infield. I think he's going to help Vitello a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And he'll make him laugh. I think those two both have sort of similar senses of humor from kind of what I can gather from Vitello. I think they're just going to spend a lot of time laughing too, which is great. But yeah, I already thought that Devers was on his way to looking like a pretty good first baseman in very limited time there.
Yeah, I thought so
You
too.
know, not probably not quite an average third baseman to be honest. But if you can play third base at the major league level and then you switch to first, you have the potential to be an outstanding first baseman. And we saw that, like, especially toward the end of the season, he was turning in some nice plays and he was starting some good double plays.
Yeah,
You know, that throw, that some of that stuff is like kind of a little bit more advanced than you think for a guy who's just been doing it for 2 months.
sure.
So I can't wait to see what Wash does with Devers, and
Yeah,
Devers is going to love him.
absolutely.
Eldridge, if not traded, is really going to benefit too. Obviously, but everyone will. You know, Casey Schmidt has not played second all that much. If
Mhm.
he winds up at second, he is going to be such a better second baseman working with Ron
Yeah,
Washington. So,
yeah. And what you're right. I mean, I can't wait to hear Wash's laugh for the first time in the dugout in spring training, because you know how that is, right? It's the most endearing. He and Dusty Baker's laugh. I mean, that's just it. I want to hear those two. You know,
that's going to be a fun spring training. It really is.
I think it is too.
That's a lot of good personalities.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I want to shift gears. I want to ask you about something that you put out on social media, and I thought it was super cool. It was at the winter meetings, and you put out this picture on social media with you and I don't know, 30, 35 women who are all covering Major League Baseball as sports writers, right?
Yep.
And I think you said something to the point of, you know, there wasn't enough room. There's many more. And the point is this is how far women have come in sports writing for Major League Baseball. I think it's super cool. But the thing that got me is you said, if I would have taken this picture when I first started, there would have only been two of us.
Yep. Yep.
So
there was one.
And yep. I mean, you're a leader in this industry, not just women, just in general, whatever gender you are. And you must be really proud of that, though, because that part of it, women as sports writers covering Major League Baseball, has come an enormous way after what was a long time where it just wasn't happening, right?
Yeah, it was a slow trickle for a long time. You know, I wasn't in the first wave. You know, there were certainly women in front of me, including in the Bay Area. You know, Susan Fornoff covered the A's at the Sacramento Bee, and of course we had a lot of wonderful women columnists here in the Bay Area, including Joan Ryan and Stephanie Salter and Gwen Knapp. Really wonderful people. But there, on the baseball beat, there just were never very many women, and certainly not for very long. So when I started covering the Texas Rangers full-time in 1994, I was the only woman in the American League, and Stephanie Miles was covering the Expos. That's how long ago it was in the National League. So, and that was it for
so that was
quite some time.
1994.
That was 94. Yeah, and I think maybe sort of toward the end of the 90s, I think Emily Benjamin was in Boston, Carrie Muscat was in Chicago. There were a handful of others here and there. Kelsey Snow was in Minnesota. My great friend Cheryl Rosenberg was first the Marlins and then the Angels by the end of the 90s. So, but it was few and far between, right? Yeah. And then I have to give MLB.com a lot of credit for this, because they had an internship program that really launched a lot of women's careers. And The Athletic has been very aggressive in hiring lots of women. So I think between those two outlets, really, the numbers have swelled, and it's been wonderful to see. But I just couldn't believe it when we had that big a reservation, and there were still people who couldn't make the reservation. And these are the people coming to the winter meeting. So not everyone sends all their beat writers or all, every single reporter to the winter meeting. So there are a lot more women beyond that, which it just makes me so happy. Yeah, it was really cool. And, really good.
Listen, I mean, just the Giants, right? Shayna and Maria and you. I mean, that's three right there that are just covering the Giants. And that's right. As many as there are men covering the Giants. As far as every day.
Don't forget Janie McCauley. Janie McCauley's out there an awful lot for Associated Press. So yeah.
That's pretty.
And we've got our our wonderful Ann Killian, of course, is stirring up trouble every now and then, coming out to the Giants. Yeah.
Just be nice to Ann. We got to be nice to Ann. Yeah, no,
That's the only
I
reason.
wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you about that because I know you're very proud of it, but I also know that you're at the forefront of that group. You know, you were probably the one that was there first of all those people, and I'm sure it hasn't always been easy, right? I mean, you've run into issue, and I don't want to know what the issues are, but I'm sure you've run into things where you're like, really, really, this is what we're dealing with right now, and that's not fair, obviously, but I'm sure
There
you've
were a
had some.
few things, nothing awful. Certainly some of my friends, Lisa Olson in particular, my
Yeah,
friend Jennifer Fry, had dealt with some more serious things than I did. The few sort of worse incidents I had were with people who were sort of difficult to everybody.
yeah,
So I kind of felt like, I don't know if that was necessary because gender related. So I'm not going to complain about that. But yeah, look, were not very many women for a long time. When I went to Texas, I was the first woman that the Dallas Morning News had covering baseball. I was the first woman covering baseball, period, in Dallas for a team. So it was a little bumpy here and there, but it was fun. Honestly, I love that job. I love that team. So that all went fine. But it's so good that really nobody thinks about it twice now. It almost sounds
yeah,
weird talking about it now because it's just not an issue,
yeah.
which
Which
is
is perfect,
fantastic.
right? I mean, that's where you want to get to, right? Where it's not even something talked about. Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm definitely the oldest of the bunch because I learned when Paul Hoynes got the Career Excellence Award from the BBWAA, which
yeah,
is
yeah,
wonderful. Long time Cleveland Guardians,
yep,
Indians, and then
yep.
Guardians beat writer. I'm number 3 on the full-time list behind Mark Topkin, and if you'd included my 2 years on the Rangers, I'm actually ahead of Mark, so
Really,
right behind Hoynesy. So I'm very, very
you're
old,
number one.
Glenn.
You're number one, Susan. You're number one. Hey, what's in the world of social media? I know your job is different. You and I have had this conversation many times. I miss opening up a sports page. It was one of my favorite things to do on the road. Get the local sports page, read about the game, look at all the. I used to love doing that. I still
Yeah.
do. You just can't do it. And I've said, Susan, where are the box scores in the Chronicle? And you explained the deadline to me, and I understand it now. Do you miss that? Because I know it's so much different now with social media, and I sometimes see you in the dugout, and I want to say hi to you, but I know you're
And I'm
putting
going like,
something on
no,
social media.
no, I'm tweeting.
I have to do this, but I mean, do you miss the way it used to be?
Sometimes there's good with the bad, I think, and I still try to pick up papers, actual newspapers in other cities when I can. But everyone's got the same sort of production issues. There's a large, the fact that print itself, the actual paper costs an enormous amount. The print costs a lot of
Sure.
transportation. All of these things, when you can also publish online, and
Yeah.
those things are not, quite as bad for the environment. They're certainly not as costly.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is to do with production and costs, certainly. But we still have a healthy number of print subscribers of the
That's
Chronicle. I
good.
love our subscribers. Yeah, I really wish that our deadlines were a little bit more subscriber friendly. I'm glad
Mhm.
that people stick with the paper, the physical paper, because I do love it too. I love doing the crossword, but yeah, I do miss the days of full pages of box scores and
I miss
even
it.
the little things. Do you remember we used to run like the full shipping report and stuff? Like there
Yeah.
were some crazy things back in the day. I loved all of that stuff, like digging
Yeah.
into the racing forms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. But what can you do, right? I mean, time just moves ahead.
yeah. But
I
now
want
you
to
can get all your stories instantly. The game ends, and I press send, and you get a story. So
yeah,
that's pretty great too.
yeah, it is. No, you're right. You're right. It's just there was something about being on the road, and like I knew what cities had to get. New York was unbelievable, right? I could spend 2 hours on a cup of coffee with the sports pages in New York. I
Oh,
always
those
like I always
papers.
like Seattle's sports page. It was great, and so
The Chicago
but
papers. Yeah, I mean,
the Chicago,
there were so many great, and there's still great papers. You just gotta get out your iPad, and
yeah.
most of them look pretty nice on an iPad. I gotta say.
Susan, unfortunately, we're going to end on a down note. I just saw where Glen Dicki passed away. the great Glen
Yeah.
Dicki, of course, from the Chronicle. Tough to describe. He was controversial. He was critical. He was a nice man, but you and I both agreed from a newspaper standpoint, he was a must read. You always read Glen Dicki. You got mad about it sometimes. You didn't agree with them, but you always read him. And really, isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah, I think he was probably the most discussed sports writer in the Bay Area for a good 15, 20 years in the 80s and 90s. It was beyond must. It was like vital reading. Everyone was talking about it. You talk about like water cooler TV. He was the water cooler columnist.
Mm-hmm.
You'd turn on the radio and people would just be talking about what did Glen Dicki write that day, because he would take some pretty wild stances. We had our BBWAA luncheon today, and there was a lot of talk about the time he took Joe Montana to task for having a second child. I think in December or January, like right into a lead up to a Super Bowl.
Sorry, Glenn.
Sometimes he took some stances where you go like, oh, I don't even know about that one. But yeah, he was really. He really was. He moved the discussion for many number of years in the Bay Area. Absolutely.
I was always curious about somebody like Glenn, who wrote a lot of controversial stuff, and I would talk to him once in a while. He was a very nice man to talk to, but I remember always thinking, does he once in a while write a story on purpose just to get a reaction? And he was never going to admit that. But did he really always feel that strongly about? I mean, was he really bothered that Joe Montana had a baby right before the Super Bowl? Did that really bother him, or was he like, "Yeah"? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I mean, it wasn't clicks back in the day, but we would say that'll get some clicks. You know what? There are some columnists now. There's always a few columnists here and there that I feel like I'm not 100% sure that you are fully invested in this argument. You might just be making it to get a reaction. And it's possible that there were days like that for Glenn. I'm going to take the contrary position here, almost as a devil's advocate, or to go against the grain, but it created conversation. Like, I do think sometimes there's some value in having somebody that is the pot stirrer.
Sure.
But I would rather have it be something that is an actually deeply felt sentiment than the few that are. I'm not talking about Dicki, but there are a few who've been working in the past couple of decades where I think, like, you don't really believe that at all.
Well,
it's completely disingenuous.
There's a few people on TV now that you could put in that category as well. So
yeah, Susan, some of them might have had a column or two or in the Bay Area in the past also.
Yeah, probably. Susan, thank you very much for joining us. I can't wait to see you in spring training. We'll chat. We'll see how this whole thing is coming together. But you and I have been friends for a long time. I love your work, and thanks very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Glenn. This was a blast. Anytime.
All right. Thanks, Susan. Have a good one. All right. Susan Slusser from the Chronicle. Excellent, man. She's been a really good writer for a long, long time. And again, you don't always agree with a writer, especially a columnist. Susan is a columnist now, but she also is, she's pretty day to day. Writes great stories. And she's a very nice lady, and she's very good at what she does. And we're kind of lucky to have her every day covering the Giants. So we appreciate her coming on. She was great. Got some inside stuff on the Giants and what they're looking for, and some news on the new guy. So we certainly do indeed appreciate her coming on. Tomorrow night, we're going to another good show. My brother Dwayne's going to come on at 7:00 right here on the Glen Kuiper Show. So brother Dwayne's going to join me. We'll talk about the Giants, see what he thinks about what they're doing and what he thinks they're going to do. And we'll talk about broadcasting like we always do. So it's always fun having Dwayne on. He's a good guest. And it certainly helps that he's my brother. So I can ask him whatever I want. Right. But anyways, that'll be tomorrow at 7:00. Tomorrow at 7:00 right here on the Glen Kuiper Show. Dwayne will join me. So make sure you check in for that. So that's it for tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we got a bunch of comments coming in, and I'm going to read through them when the show's over. I appreciate that. Sorry I didn't get to all of them or any of them with Susan, but we certainly had we certainly had great conversation with Susan, and we didn't want to. She was on a roll. We didn't want to interrupt, but all you guys are awesome, and you guys know how I feel about you. We're closing in on 13,000 subscribers, which is big news, and that's all thanks to you guys. So we should get there by the first of the year. So excited about that. So, anyways, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, my brother Dwayne will be right here on the Glen Kuiper Show. So make sure you join us for that, and we'll get some questions in for Dwayne. Like we always do. So thanks again. Let's get to our sponsors one last time, starting with Partners Capital LLC. Whether you're a professional athlete or you're the people just next door, Partners Capital delivers thoughtful planning, steady guidance, and a clear path forward. Your partner for a stronger financial future. It's Partners Capital LLC. Check them out. We're also brought to you by Tilden Properties. As an investor, one of the best places to put your money, as we tell you, is California's multi-family real estate. Bay Area-based, family-owned, Tilden Properties has been building investment wealth for their clients since 2008. Call them at 925-209-8558. And by the Carrick Real Estate Team. You want your home sold? You want to buy a new home? You want to buy your first home? We've done it all with the Carrick Real Estate Team. My family has, whether it be my brothers, whether it be my nieces, my nephews, we have all used the Carrick Real Estate Team. Nothing but success. Great people. And again, whether you're moving up, downsizing, or making that first home purchase, you know how stressful that is. Well, these people will guide you through it, and they will get you to where you need to go, get you in a new home. Awesome family-run business. It's thecarrickteam.com. Call them at 925-548-4132. And we can't forget about Valone Insurance. You tired of being overcharged on your property insurance? Valone Insurance has multiple options for your home and landlord properties. Save big money on your property insurance. Call Kyle or Ron at the number Valone Insurance, 925-433-8271. And last but certainly not least, Area Rug Cleaning Direct, a subsidiary of Gamble's Flooring. If your area rug needs professional cleaning or repair, listen to this, folks. Area Rug Cleaning Direct will pick it up and return your rug looking brand new within 5 business days. Family owned, proudly serving the Bay Area for over 35 years. Call Area Rug Cleaning Direct at 925-933-9999 for all your area rug needs. Thank you to all my awesome sponsors, and thanks to you for watching tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed Susan Slusser and all of our Giants talk. We'll have more tomorrow with Dwayne Kuiper. Join us for that. Kuiper Brothers coming your way on the Glen Kuiper Show tomorrow at 7. Have a good one, everybody.